Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming today. As was mentioned, I'm Scott Davis, a solutions engineer with Atlassian, and I'm from Sydney. So I'm definitely thrilled to be here with you. We've had a good-sized attendance today, especially in the room below us, which has a larger capacity. We've got a lot of people on site today. Today we'll be covering a few different areas. So you already heard from Bernie about people and practices, but today I wanted to go over a bit more with you on some of our product updates, whether it's on cloud or server, kind of some of the things that we've been working on. But firstly, I wanted to touch on what's really Atlassian's obsession, and that's teams in general. Our stock ticker is team. And we talk a lot about teamwork. We have people that lay down in the middle of Martin Place in Sydney and spell out the word team. Atlassian is very, very focused, to put it mildly, on everything surrounding teams. And that obsession is now not only just with us, it extends to a number of teams that spans across our 119,000 customers, which obviously includes all of you here today. So we're grateful to you. Thank you for coming on this journey with us to figure out how to improve teamwork and what that really means. But firstly, what is it about teams that gets us excited? Why is Atlassian so obsessed with that? We believe that if you look back on all the truly great achievements, really throughout human history, it's always involved teams. If you look at things like the Nobel Prize, more Nobel Prizes have been won by teams than by individuals. So it's something that is certainly no mistake and something that we want to tap into and leverage even further. And you can look at a couple of different examples that we can all relate to in real life on how this has changed. When the Model T car was being built 100 or so years ago, it took about 2.5 hours with a small team of people and had about 1,500 parts. Now compare that to today, the number of technologies and teams and subsystems and integrations that are required for making, as is shown here, a Tesla. It's a completely different world, even for automobiles. Now, some companies, some organizations manage this complexity really, really well. Some find it a bit more difficult. But across all of that, there are some common elements for companies that do this really well, that have great teamwork. And it really is, for us, pretty basic in terms of 3 broad categories to look at. Ensuring that you have the right people with the right products and the right practices. I'm going to focus in this session on the central component on the product side. But it definitely takes all 3 in order to get to that ultimate goal of great teamwork. Furthermore, we've noticed from our own experiences that across all of this, there's one crucial foundational principle that really acts as a force multiplier, that if you do it well, allows you to really step up your game. And that's this notion of openness, open work, across these same 3 areas. So what does this mean? Well, for open people, being able to share knowledge and contribute more and adapting to change. For practices that Bernie already talked to you about, allowing you to open up access to the right context, establishing additional rhythms, and identifying key areas of improvement in your own team's health. Finally, having products that are designed to be open by default, which also encourage sharing and help people to connect with other ideas, opinions, and expertise inside the company. Now, in an ideal world, this would already be the case, right? Even in one company, having multiple teams simply collaborating with each other effortlessly, data flowing right to where it needs to go, regardless of which products they're using. This is a nice idea, a nice target, and even within Atlassian, we've improved this quite a bit, and I think today we'll have a lot to share with you on this, but we're by no means perfect either. We still have barriers we have to deal with. Improving this and evolving this further, even for Atlassian, is a work in progress, absolutely. Part of that is simply because of the number of applications that each of us bring into the workplace today. And I think we can all point out one or two or more of these, I know I can, that are already at work in our own environments. These are great point solutions that have, they fill a particular need, but they also add to this disconnectedness, to really building into a bit of chaos, making it harder to get to that open state of things that we need. And that chaos is only going to get worse. There will only be more applications that will come out, more point solutions that we have to somehow tie in. And so Atlassian's goal here is really to bring some order and connections to all of that, ultimately yielding a better informational velocity. We truly believe that a company's success is ultimately throttled by how quickly information can get from one part of the organization to the areas where it's needed most. So where do we start in terms of looking at this for Atlassian? We've got a few different areas, but I'll start with something called Atlassian Home. And if you haven't seen this already, it's designed to be a single place for you to stay on top of the work that you care about most, viewed across a number of different Atlassian products. And if you think about why this is crucial, again, a lot of us have a number of different tabs on our browser and applications and chat apps that we have running all at once. It's very easy to kind of switch between them and feel like you're busy but not really get anything done. How many people have shown up to work at 9 o'clock in the morning and you had your day planned out, and by the time you left at 5 o'clock, you knew you were busy, you knew you did a lot of work, but it didn't really feel like you got anything done? I mean, I've had days like this, right? We all have. So Home is designed to help, to alleviate a bit of that. And it's meant to be more or less a digest of information across a number of Atlassian products, updates from Confluence, task assignments from Jira, all viewed in one place so that you can prioritize where you need to focus immediately in getting the key things done without having to switch across multiple areas and ultimately kind of lose your way. And it's not just about reading updates, it's about being able to take action on them directly in line. If somebody makes a comment on a page that I recently provided, well, rather than switching back to that page simply to reply to their comment, I can just do it right in the feed here. So I can stay zeroed in on task and get through all of my key activities straight away. Now we've got this activity feed going on, again, across a number of areas, and we've also built some intelligence into it. So it will show you, not just in chronological order, but things that it feels you should be aware of first off. So as you're scrolling down, you know that you're already targeting the right things in the right order. And of course, allowing search across all the products from within one tab. So no more going to the Bitbucket interface and the Confluence UI and the Jira login just to search across all of them, but simply having one search bar that will federate out and pull back the results for you all in one place. Now this is all great for content that you're working on, for documents that you want to deliver and such. But at some point you want to give a bit more shape to your team conversations as well. All the chats that you'll have to the side and the usual daily activity and decisions, we want to enable you to unify that as well. And this is where Atlassian provides Stride. So if you haven't seen it or had the chance to experience it yet, Stride benefits from Atlassian's 15 years of focus on teamwork And it provides a set of unique capabilities that have definitely improved our ability to work internally, and we think that each and every one of you will find useful as well. Now, certainly it has core messaging capabilities, but a bit more, so what does Stride offer? Well, firstly, it has simple, beautiful human messaging capabilities, complete with emojis and everything else to convey not only thoughts, but emotions as part of that. Secondly, it also includes a real-time, integrated, cross-platform messaging experience, a video chat, essentially. And you might find both of these with a lot of other applications as well, but where things start to get a bit more unique for Stride is when you look at tracking decisions. And by that I mean not simply having an audit log of everything that's been discussed on a team, but being able to take any one of those and say, well, all of this other chat that led to this point here, this is the thing you really need to pay attention to. This is the key result or the decision or an action that needs to be addressed in some way. And it really allows you to reduce that noise to signal ratio so you can zero right in on what requires your attention. If you're out for the day or if you're working on another activity, you can synchronize back into the team chat pretty quickly. And in fact, that leads to having the ability to not only tune in on those decisions, but tune out when you need to focus on other things, to have a focus mode so that you can pause all the distractions that messaging applications can bring and let everyone know that I'm heads down on this activity, I'm not ignoring you, I'll be back in a bit, and then use decisions to sequence into that pretty quickly. We do this in an integrated way for all of our own products, and we also provide extension points, add-ons, or plugins that allow you to include other applications and bring it into a unified discussion as well. I think probably the best way to see all of this in action, to give this a bit of an illustration, is just to use a scenario that we can all relate to. So let's pretend for a moment we work at an e-commerce company, and a customer of ours, as is shown here, is experiencing a problem with a shopping cart. So they go in, they open a ticket, and you can imagine what usually occurs on the back end from there. Well, in this scenario, we might need to tap into a number of different people, different roles, different teams. In fact, the reality, and this is definitely true at Atlassian, they're going to be in different offices, in different time zones, and I need to quickly bring all these people together, especially with a time-sensitive task like addressing a high-level support issue, right? Our shopping cart's not working, we can't make sales. This is something we need to tackle straight away. Well, the ticket gives us a starting point, but using Stride to do kind of being able to swarm quickly around addressing resolution on that task is exactly what we'll go through here. So our tech support engineer is opening a room just on this ticket, and as soon as he does so, he knows at least one other person that he believes should probably be involved in the discussion, one of the system administrators. And simply by referencing him, he can pull him into this team chat. And in fact, they can do that for the sysadmin who says, oh yeah, we just did update something 30 minutes ago. I have an idea on who else we need to bring in. Amy pipes in as well and brings in John. You can enlist the aid of anyone you need and pull them in to get their attention straight away and to ensure that they have access to all the previous conversations. So it allows them to get up to speed pretty quickly as well. Now, at some point, especially for a scenario like this, reading information, messaging back and forth has its use, but sometimes, and this is something I even have to remind our people internally, I think my threshold is after about 3 or 4 messages in a row, I say, right, let's have a video chat. I guarantee you a 5-minute conversation is going to cut off 50 different messages back and forth. Equally is true for a support scenario, right? So within Stride, again, without even leaving this application, you have direct access to that real-time video chat capability. It can be voice only if you want, and or video. Atlassian, because we're so geographically dispersed, we have about 10 offices across a number of continents. We quite often use video chat, especially for these scenarios. So within Stride, I can spin up a chat. Everyone's aware of that and can now join in whether they're on their laptop or on their mobile. Stride is available across platform. So on the native app, off a web browser, off your mobile, you can immediately be part of these conversations. And as we've done here, when we spin up a chat, you can participate regardless of where you reside as well. Throughout that conversation, again, not unlike when you're messaging back and forth, especially when you're just having a verbal chat, you will come to some key decision points. And you don't necessarily need to take minutes of exactly what was said, but you do want to indicate for anyone else who may need to reference them what were those crucial points that were discussed. And so in this example here, Amy has said, yeah, we've done a bit of root cause analysis. We think we've identified this particular area. It's related to using Internet Explorer somehow. And in fact, she's gone one step further and said, you know what, Don, I think you need to have Amy, one of the developers on the team, perhaps take a look at fixing this as well. So they're able to do this all in line to indicate these as key components that can now be actioned immediately. For anyone who may not have been on that chat, if I was in another meeting or out of the office for the day and simply want to look back at what happened on this ticket the following day, rather than reading through the history, right? We've all done this. You come in, you see a group chat, it has 60 updates that you've got to read through everything. Same as with your email. Don't have time to do it all. These highlights allow me to just zero in on, oh, these were the key things the team talked about are on this ticket. Okay, got it. I'm good. And that's helpful, especially for pulling in Amy here, who now has been assigned with, you got to go in and fix this thing, right? We did our work. We did some analysis. We know what's happening. We need you to go in and fix this bug. So she can go in and not only start to work on that activity, but she can actually set her focus mode. She can block anyone else from bugging her and saying, I have to focus on resolving this issue. Things will just queue up in the background in terms of messaging. And anytime anyone tries to reach out to her, they'll just see this little indicator. Yeah, she's there, she's working. Just don't bug her right now. She'll come back online as soon as she's finished. And in fact, when she's gone off and completed the code updates, she can indicate it to everyone on the team just by clicking on that task. It's now marked as done, and everyone is fully up to speed. So this is a really short scenario just to give you a sense of some of the key capabilities of Stride. And if you haven't had a look already, definitely sign up today, take a look, even if it's just to play with it on your own or a small team. I'd say go in, have a look, see if it might work for your particular environment as well. We've used it internally for a while, and I found it to be a nice change. It definitely has some cool new features to it as well. One of those that, again, Atlassian is very big on, even from when I was interviewing, is video chat. Everything's a video chat. Every meeting, everywhere, even the small 2-3 person conference rooms around our offices always has video chat capability. So we're very big on that. And we've designed the same video chat for Stride to be available as a microservice that you can plug into other products, which we've in fact done here for Trello. So quick poll, just out of curiosity, how many people are using or have used Trello in the past? Few, okay. So we've spliced this in for the same reasons like the scenario that I just went through, using a Trello board, and you can think of this as like an online Post-it note, right? I just want to quickly outline different things to do. And if I want to actually have those conversations, you can now do a board chat, as it's called in Trello. But it uses that same capability, that same messaging service that we originally built for Stride, and it ties it in and makes it available, again, even across platform as well. So you can have that conversation, you can update the different cards, as they're referred to in Trello, in real time to accelerate how you might make updates on that application as well. Now, Trello, if you haven't been using it, and I didn't see a lot of hands going up, so again, I would say go take a look. We've used this for a number of different things internally, both for the company as well as I can think of a few things individually. Things like setting up events such as the one we're at today, right? So what's the agenda? What are the logistics? Who are the speakers? What's the sequencing? Do we want to change the order that some of the agenda items might occur in? Trello is great for having everyone focused on a common goal, but allowing just enough fluidity that you can get things in order pretty quickly. And we actually use Trello consistently to set up events like this one, as well as for new hire onboarding. So new employee starts day one, we clone a new hire board for that team, and they're given this as a reference point to do everything they need to do, from things as boring as HR paperwork to training materials they have to read through. And that's another common scenario as well. Now, Trello certainly integrates with all the other Atlassian products, Confluence, Jira, Bitbucket, but we also allow you through power-ups to tie in additional applications as well, GitHub and Slack and Dropbox and others. So you can also pull those into Trello if you wish. Again, these are referred to as power-ups, and we have over 80 of them available today, and this list is expanding pretty much every month. You can, as part of this event, go to the URL that's shown, which gives you a 3-month access to Trello Gold and allows you to select an additional 3 power-ups as part of that. So you can actually experience directly what some of these capabilities might do for your team as well. So again, if you haven't already, I'd say definitely take a look at what's available there in Trello. One other interesting area that we use it for internally, especially our engineering teams, as part of an agile-based methodology, is just doing a team retrospective, a retro, right? What did we learn from? What went well? What will we do differently? That type of thing. And specifically for our Jira cloud team, they had one key result that came out of a recent retro for which they've built a video that we'll now spend a couple minutes watching about how they've redesigned the new experience in Jira Cloud. Cool stuff. Our Jira Cloud team has been quite busy in terms of redesigning the user experience. And Jira Software is, not surprisingly, on a continuing journey to improve that even more. Now, Jira is very powerful, and we've improved the experience around that, as you just saw. But in terms of implementing different projects in Jira, quite often it comes down to one individual. So many teams that'll use the system, but at some point they have a lot of requests that comes back to the Jira administrator. And this individual can quite often become the bottleneck in making these changes occur. There's a lot of capability that they have control over, and intentionally it's put in the right place. Sometimes people just want what seems like simple changes. I want to update my workflow. I want to add a new custom field for my issues. I want to reorder fields or add new add-ons. I've seen one of two things happen in environments when this gets to a certain level. Either you just queue up and you have to wait, or the Jira admin says, yeah, you've been through enough training. You look like I can trust you. I'll just make you a Jira admin. You do it on your own because, what could possibly go wrong? You won't break anything. It'll all be okay. And then we know what happens here. Stuff starts to fall apart pretty quickly. Well, this is why one of the areas that we focused on for the administrative side of Jira was really opening up additional ways to delegate out more of that administration, to empower more of the team, to be able to take aspects of configuring Jira and where appropriate, moving that to not just everybody, but instead of a system administrator, maybe a project owner, or maybe a board member, but being able to selectively push out additional capabilities. So that in this example here, if I have my own project and I just want to add a new field to an issue type that is only being used by me, I shouldn't have to go to someone else. My change won't affect other teams. We've now delegated that out so that a project owner or administrator can go in and can simply fill out the details for adding a new field. So here we'll add a new category, simply select a couple of fields that indicate what type of information it is, set some default values, and we're good to go. So now within Jira, you can actually open this up so that a project administrator can make these types of changes for certain custom fields as well as certain workflow updates, right? Let them do this if it's only in their own project, if it's not a shared workflow, if it's not a shared issue type, let them go in and make these updates on their own. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. And then delegating that even further so that certain teams can organize their information as well. Again, it shouldn't take an administrator to go in and add a new column on a board that we want to track. I just want to go in and add a QA column. I want to set the order in which I want to view it and have the workflow reflect that underneath if I'm just using a simple workflow. This should all be done in an automated way, and in fact, it is now in Jira. Furthermore, being able to go in and make different updates and even add information in line on the board without opening another tab, without moving to another UI, but doing this now all in place is something that's available with Jira. And when I go in to view the details, instead of looking at this kind of clutter of information, reorganizing and resequencing that based on a lot of our learnings in the cloud space and really tightening up that UI is something that's now occurred as well. So we really put a lot of focus into the usability here to streamline this a bit more. And this is all on cloud, and you'll see elements of this trickle over to server over time. But this is definitely something that you can see on cloud today. And across all of this, just like with Home that I mentioned earlier, being able to search even within Jira across multiple projects and boards and filters and having a much more rounded out experience in terms of searching for information across a number of different areas within Jira. So we've managed to do quite a bit for Jira software. And as you're already sensing, you'll see a number of these things occur on cloud or server first and perhaps trickle across to the other. That's why it's important to note, especially if you're not using many of our products already today, we provide 3 deployment options for all of our products. You can start with cloud. You can start with Jira or Confluence, for example, on the cloud. It's a good way to get going, especially if you're a smaller team, and it's a quick way to get up and running, see some of the new UI that I mentioned already. If you have a higher number of employees that you need to scale to, or you have certain performance or security considerations, you can also install Jira on-premise. You can use our server version that has all the same capabilities, but now you maintain that installation, and it allows you to do that for the server option on one machine. Now, at some point, you might have, as I've seen, tens of thousands, 10, 20, 50,000 users on a server instance. Having that all on one machine just can't tolerate that throughput. You'll move to data center to have that one become 2 or 3 or 4, which to the end user looks like one URL, but on the back end is multiple machines. And the reason I call this out is not to get too much into the architectural differences, but in terms of the cloud versus the on-premise, the server and data center, we manage those internally as 2 different code lines, 2 different product managers, 2 different engineering teams. And what that means is we have 2 different sets of backlogs that they're always kicking through during their sprints. And those backlogs quite often will intentionally be prioritized differently because the use case for cloud type customers is different than server at data center. But we will on occasion move one across to the other where it makes sense. And you'll see this a few different ways. This is driven quite extensively by feedback we get from a lot of you. We take our cue from things that we need to do in terms of evolving the product, from certain market elements that we assess as well. But a good portion of what helps us determine our priorities is what you tell us. So when we think of the server option and what we hear from customers there, quite often we just need easier upgrades. We got it, Jira rocks, we've got it installed, we love it. But when I go to that next version, I want to really minimize, if not eliminate, downtime. Please help me make upgrading easier. If I'm already on data center and you now have not only tens of thousands of users, but millions of Jira issues, help me archive some of those off. I don't need each and every one in here anymore. And what can you do to help me with that particular area? Whereas on the cloud, they're really just interested in, we have lots of other cloud services. Help us tie those in. Now, we want to use PagerDuty. We already use Salesforce. Help us link those in and round out our view of things from Jira as well. All of this type of feedback from you, we take into consideration, and we will intentionally prioritize differently across our different product lines as part of that. It's what allows us to really build for a nice, evolving, scalable set of options for you so that you can move from cloud to server or the other way around as your needs dictate. And in fact, it's something that we've looked at from a number of areas from a site called jira.atlassian.com. So again, quick show of hands. Who has added or updated or voted on something on jira.atlassian.com? Only a few. All right, so again, this is how we actually quantify feedback from you. If you need a particular feature that we don't have, if there's a bug in one of our products that is preventing you from expanding use of one of our products, you can go to jira.atlassian.com. Our backlog is fully public. You can track for other items that look similar, and if you find one, you can just upvote it. There's a quick link that says, yeah, I think you should pay more attention to this item. If you don't find it, you're more than welcome to add a new ticket, to create a new item that we can track. We look at these, and these are actually some examples of real Jack tickets, jira.atlassian.com tickets, from over the last 12 months that we've now fixed or added into our products. And it's the result of you all providing nearly 18,000 votes. So those issues addressed 18,000 people saying, yeah, we want that fixed or we want that added. So again, we do very much listen to the feedback that we get from you consistently. And one of the top ones, something that actually had been requested for a couple of years, that received 2,500 votes for Jira, was the ability to have a different priority scheme per project. So rather than just having one set of priorities you can use in every project on a Jira install had the same thing, now you can go in and say, well, maybe I'll stick with the default values for project A, but project B maybe is more support oriented, and so I want to have severity indicators. Or if you're really cheeky, like one of our Australian teams, you'll probably want to have how you really feel about things assigned now as priorities on different tasks in your project. But you have the capability to establish multiple options, and they can vary team by team. And again, this was because we need this in our projects. Please give this to us ASAP. Another area was having additional applications. So we saw with Stride and with Trello that they have mobile apps. Up until recently, that wasn't the case for Jira and Confluence. So mobile in particular, for a few months, we've had the Confluence mobile application for cloud, and it's now available for server as well. And I can take a number of key things that I typically look for on Confluence and now simply scan it on my mobile. I've been traveling a lot the last few weeks as I go from China to India to Japan to here, even as I'm heading through the airport. I can see any key page updates. I can see comments that people have made on that. I can even, and I've had to do this a couple of times, I can even go in and make some quick updates on a page. It's certainly not the full editing experience as you would get on your laptop, but I can go in, I can update words, I can add images, I can do bullet lists and some formatting. It's enough to at least make some quick changes. And again, it's for whether you're using Confluence in the cloud or on-premise. This app is now available for both. We'll help you locate your URL and then store that as part of your settings on your application so that you can refer to it rather than resetting it over and over again. So this mobile app is now available again for both, and it's been out for cloud in a few months. It's an example of where we'll take something that works really, really well, that's innovative, and we'll maybe start on the cloud side, especially if it's more a user experience capability like this one. And then when we've hardened that up, we'll make it available for the server side as well. So Confluence is out today, and pretty soon watch out for a Jira mobile application to come up as well. Now, if you're using one of our products like Jira Service Desk, having additional capabilities to allow agents to respond to tickets more quickly is something that's quite useful. So canned responses is something that had been requested of us there for some time. A number of agents responding to a variety of different tickets, but as you can imagine, there's some commonality across them, right? There's a number of responses that you just know. For anyone who's ever worked in or dealt with support, I know I've answered this already, or I had a really good response to this on a ticket, and you have to go and find it and cut and paste and maybe modify it as you go. Well, what you're allowed to do now within Jira Service Desk is simply say, right, well, we'll just have you store a short list of these types of canned responses, either view from a drop-down or search. We'll pick VPN here, maybe make some modifications in line, but quickly, straight away, right on the ticket, being able to use this template response as a way to get back that information to users in a more time-efficient way. And so that was something that we added specifically for Jira Service Desk. In terms of how things might not only move from server to cloud or cloud to server, but how one function might fundamentally need to change in different ways, even if they're currently used in both, this is where Smart Mentions comes up. And by Smart Mentions, I mean if you're using Confluence and you want to tag someone on a page. Now, if I'm on a small team, if there are only 5 or 10 Denises, scrolling through a list is okay. Within Atlassian, we have about 3,000 employees. And oddly enough, even at that level, I am one of 25 Scots. So already it gets to be a bit more annoying to kind of find the right one. What we allow you to do instead with smart mentions is to say, right, well, instead of just doing an alphabetical sort, let's use some intelligence. So I know the other people who were part of contributing on this page. I know the other people who are part of your team or other users that you interact with most frequently. Let's put those higher up in the selection list, so the most probable ones you can pick from straight away. Because when you take Confluence from 3,000 to 20,000 to 60,000 users, the nature of this type of feature changes. So smart mentions is meant to address that, and it adds to it some additional internal kind of caching and performance improvements to really make that a lot easier to use as well. That is not only an example of how one function changes between different deployments, but again, it speaks to using the product at a particular scale. And I mentioned earlier cloud, server, and what's being shown here, all of our data center options as well. Data center is designed, I'm having trouble with the clicker. There we go. Data center is designed to allow you to have additional features at a very large scale. So again, it's 10, 50,000 users. It allows you to not only have access to features in a different way, as I've already mentioned, but being able to mitigate both planned and unplanned downtime. So one reason why you might want to move from server to data center is not only because you need additional throughput, right? You've got a larger user base who is accessing Jira, but use of Jira has become so crucial that you can't ever have that instance go offline. So we need to have it on 2 boxes or 4 boxes or whatever the right number is. That's fine for tracking unplanned downtime, right? Now you can have 1 box that disappears and the system still stays up and running. But what happens when you want to go from Jira 7.9 to 7.10? You still have to worry about planned downtime. How do you deal with upgrades? So actually all the way back in 7.3, we provided something called zero downtime upgrade. And that means that within Jira, you can upgrade your production installation in place, and the application will allow you to selectively take a node offline until it's fully upgraded, and then it will upgrade the database at the very end and kind of bless the whole thing as being now at the new version. So managing unplanned as well as planned downtime is key for installations that scale to this level. It's also a reason why, as you have more use here, you want to be able to do additional things like not only make it easier for people to get issues in, but how do I get data out? How do I archive projects? So coming soon, and as part of our early access program, or EAP, as is shown here, you can learn more about project archiving and how we'll finally be making that available. And again, that was one of our Jira issue tickets, jira.atlassian.com tickets that had actually been around for quite some time. Now that's good for Jira, and Jira tends to be quite transactional in its activity, right? Lots of reads, lots of writes. But Confluence is a bit different. Way more reads than writes. In fact, we estimate in most installs it's probably about 80% of people who are reading versus who are making updates. So having zero downtime upgrade in Confluence, investing in that type of engineering infrastructure doesn't make sense. But in order to still help you deal with planned downtime, what we'll be doing very soon on Confluence Data Center is allowing you to have a read-only mode. And it's just as it sounds, right? I can activate read-only mode. There's a banner at the top. Everyone can still read information. I just can't update or add or comment or do anything that would issue a write action to the database. But I can still read information while things are being upgraded behind the scenes. And so this is another way to address for planned downtime in Confluence now, as well as within Jira. Much of these are driven by your votes and your feedback. And the main vehicle for that is jira.atlassian.com. So again, for any of you, if you're using Jira, if you're thinking of using Jira, at any point, we definitely want to hear from you. We do tend to learn a lot from both sides of the product. Sometimes we'll implement features on cloud, sometimes we'll do server, but we'll pollinate between the two where it makes sense. And all of that is designed for scaling additional teams as part of that. Now, products are a central point for this, but again, it's only one of several components to build out teamwork more effectively, right? The right people, the right products, and the right practices. And earlier today, I imagine Bernie discussed with you the importance of getting teams in sync and how teams can become even more disconnected, even with the best products in place, because of some other dysfunctionality that needs to be addressed. Things like having a shared understanding. What does your team do and why? And what is our main mission? What do you need to worry about in terms of the size of the team and their roles and their skills? What does that ultimately mean in terms of not only what you want the team to achieve, but how do you figure out when you're doing it well? Within Atlassian, just a few years ago, we would always get excited on working on the next cool thing and have great collaboration, and we'd go through all this process, and we would ultimately end up in what the word that would be used was thrashing. And we had lots of great ideas, but little actual definitive results, so thrashing was a big thing. Now within Atlassian, and it speaks to this topic here, we'll still have debates, we'll still have a great amount of collaboration, we'll come to key decision points. But at some point in time, somebody in the room, usually one of the manager level people, will say, "That's fantastic. How will we know when we've succeeded?" Which is another way of asking, what are our metrics? How do we know when we're done? How do we definitively say we hit the mark on this? So I'm sure Bernie walked through a bit of that with you already, and hopefully you'll be able to learn from our experiences on evaluating all of our teams, as well as working with some of our largest customers, and how that's now packaged up into these team playbooks that I know he's already spoken to you about. So again, a number of different areas to touch on for the right people, the right products, and the right processes. I know you've all had to take in quite a bit today. A lot of different information has been covered. I would encourage each of you, above and beyond just these presentations, to share your own ideas and stories, to find additional ways of working. Talk to all of your peers. Talk to all the different attendees that are here. Learn what they've been through and what they're at. And take advantage of those team playbooks. They're a great resource, whether or not you're using Atlassian, whether you never use Atlassian at all. They're a fantastic way to help you assess the health of your own team, and it's the result of a lot of evaluation on our part. So ask questions as we move into the Q&A here. Feel free to ask questions at this point, during the breaks. Grab any of us as we're wandering around the halls. But most of all, I wanted to thank each and every one of you for attending today. So thank you.